So let's click new down here and add a new image, and we're gonna call this. I'm gonna FD text, and the width and height is probably good, but just as a general practice, I like to double it because usually when you're adding a texture, that means you want to add some detail. But of course, I'm going way overkill on this flash drive, and I'm going to put on UV test grid. So now here's all of our vertices, and the image in the background has now become a what's known as a UV test grid. If we go back to the 3D view here, and we put the display mode to textured, maybe go into object mode, you can see that nicer. So yeah, you'll see the UV test grid. Now if you look, these all are about the same size, which is nice. If you look back here, all the same size, that's good. They don't have to be perfect, but if you look on the front, this is very large. And what that means is that there's some stretch to this. So what the end result is going to be is that up here is going to be more, maybe if we hadn't set the image size so large, if I hadn't doubled it, up here would have been pixelized and the back would have been fine, which you don't want. You want it to be all the same resolution throughout. So some tips to get that working as we want it is if you highlight all of the vertices in the UV grid, go to UV's average island scale, that kind of helped, and then as you can see now some of them are going over the edge. We can move them manually, or we can go to UV's pack islands, and then that's pretty good. And the last one is UV's minimize stretch. That's the last tool. So this is gonna go. You're gonna see it's kind of gonna jump, and it's minimizing that stretch very well, and it's still going. And you can see the bottom toolbar is gone. So to stop it and finish it, because it's gotten as detailed as it's gonna get, really, just left click and it'll stop. And now they're more or less spread out, and I think Blender does a pretty good job of that usually. Every once in a while I click minimize stretch and then all these vertices just go crazy, and that's probably my fault, but you know, I like to blame Blender. Anyways, so now there's a couple things we could do. We could either export this with the UV layout here, and then edit it in GIMP or Photoshop or some other program, and then what we'd do is we'd add on the texture on a new layer, then we'd hide the vertices that we exported, and then add that as our texture for the model. Or we could just use the simple Blender one. There's a Blender painting thing, which we're gonna use because it's simple, and you know, the flash drive texture doesn't need to be that complex. We have our image file, and we have the UV layout here, and we have the test grid, and the test grid is showing up on the flash drive. So if we look for the button on the bottom toolbar here by middle clicking and scrolling through, is that the only way to do it? Yeah, that is. Then you'll see a little paintbrush, and it's enable image painting mode. That's what it's called, not Blender's painting thing. So anyways, so right now you can see some faint outlines of the UV layout, but it's hard to tell because they're gray, and it's a gray test grid. So the first thing I'm going to do is, if you scroll down again with the middle mouse button, and you go to the paint section, and you have text draw is what it's on, and that's fine. I'm going to turn the strength up to 100, which is kind of like the opacity, and I'm going to turn the color down to a very dark gray. Then I'm going to turn the radius all the way up to 200, which isn't that big, especially when we doubled the size of our texture. But I'm going to just cover the entire thing. And now it's just occurred to me that I haven't really thought about what color I want to make the flash drive. But that's alright. We're going to come up with a really awesome color, and it's going to look awesome. So let's see. I think gray and red might look nice, because I think that's what the colors were for the flash drive that I looked at as a reference when I initially started, but I don't have it with me. Yeah, gray and red, or actually no, let's go with like a dark blue and a red. So I'm just going to adjust the blue one up a little bit from the red and the green. You can do whatever colors you want, of course. And now I have to decide which colors I want to be what. I just noticed that I missed a spot here. So if you right click, then you can pick up the color that your cursor is on. So I picked up the gray by right clicking in a spot that was gray, and then I painted over it again. And I actually just remembered something that I wanted to do. Let's get out of the painting mode by clicking that paintbrush icon again. Now, we have one material on the flash drive right now, but I would like to add another one that is reflective, and that's going to be the metal parts. So some of the stuff in here doesn't need a texture because it's going to be on a completely different material, and those things are the inside, which I just selected the UV layout for, and then the bump, which is up here. Oh no, not the bump, not the little thumb pusher thing. I really need to get these terms right so you know what the heck I'm talking about. But the little keychain loop back here actually is what the other metal thing is. So I'm gonna get these out of the way because these don't. No, not the little thumb pusher thing. The other thing. These don't need a texture. And then that kind of opens up some more space. But I'm not going to move the other stuff because we already did that thing where we minimize the stretch. So what I'm doing here to select these is I'm selecting one vertex in it, and I'm pressing Control L, and it'll select everything on the object, much like if you press Control L on it'll select everything connected to it. So if you press A, you're selecting everything, but if you press Control L with a vertex selected, it's going to find all the ones that are connected to it, and it's just going to select everything there. Similarly, it does the same thing in 3D. We don't of course, everything on this flash drive is connected to the same thing, so it's not leaving anything out. So it's the same as pressing A, but anyways. So now we can enable the image painting again. And let's get that blue color again, and let's decide what we want to color everything else. So I think the main body should be blue, and all the accent stuff should be the red. So I still haven't really figured out what everything is. It looks like... So yeah, okay, I got this. We can do it. Let's turn the radius down. Okay, so as I was saying, you could do this in another program, the editing, by exporting it. I think you go to UV's export UV layout or something, and the one I would say that if you're doing something like this, it might actually be nice to use a different program, because I don't think Blender, as far as I know, Blender doesn't have any text in its 2D things. You can make 3D text objects, but you can't put them in a texture in using this image painting. It also does not have any like images, so I couldn't. As far as I know, I might be wrong about this, but I couldn't download an image of a, like, for instance, if you're making a like a road, I couldn't download an image of asphalt and then paste it over the road to make it like a photorealistic texture. I don't think. I think it's just this painting. But what you can do is you can add textures and use those to paint your textures. So this is kind of like making brushes with the options of, but you use the options of the textures in Blender, which I can show you in a second. Maybe we'll do that for the red. Make that look a little crazy. But anyways, so put that radius back up again. Get through this quickly. Okay, so as you can see, we now have, oops, missed some spots. Might as well just paint that stuff over here. Alright, looks good.